A number of Republicans, Senator Rubio and myself and others have introduced legislation that would provide for paid maternity leave, but do so without imposing new costs on taxpayers or employers. In our case, we allow people to draw from the Social Security Fund and then to ultimately pay that back through lower benefits down the road at a time when they're less in need of the funding. You note that this isn't a big increase, 0.6%, but for family earning $40,000 or $60,000 a year, it's $400, and that's a big increase for that family earning $600,000 a year. And I mean, it seems like a small percent because when government thinks about raising taxes, it's always a small percent for us, but it's a very substantial change in the living standards of our citizens. Why not consider measures that would allow us to provide paid maternity leave that don't place additional tax burden on employers and employees?
I assume that question is for me. Yeah. Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for your interest in the issue. I have looked at your proposal and appreciate the contribution to the dialogue. So a couple of concerns that I have. First, your proposal would cover just leave for new parents, which is only 25% of people who need access to paid leave in a year. Most people use it for their own serious health issue. Another 25% or so need it to care for a family member who's sick. On the merits itself of the policy, while I appreciate the intent, what will happen is that those workers who choose to take paid leave when a child is born will then have to work longer, and they will take a lifetime benefit cut. So the amount that we are talking about, the small contribution that you would make under the Family Act model, would help those families who would otherwise lose an average of $9,000 when they need to take a paid family or medical leave. They would have access to a family leave benefit that would allow them to take leave for a multiple number of purposes. Two, these are the very same people, women in particular, low-wage workers, who have lower lifetime Social Security, lower earnings, which means lower Social Security benefits. So these are the very people who can't afford a lower Social Security benefit when they get to retirement. And they may be in very physically taxing jobs so that they're not actually able to delay taking their Social Security benefits when they get to retirement. So again, I appreciate the intent, but I worry that the very same people who are going to need paid leave when they have a new child are also the people who need more robust retirement security when they get to that part of their lives. And I don't think we need to ask those people to trade off against themselves. I think we can create a program.
As you know, there's also provision for people to add to their working life as opposed to a retirement at the same age, but a little longer period of time. The challenge, of course, is that if every problem we deal with is simply by raising taxes, why we end up burdening the American taxpayer. We violate the president's pledge not to raise taxes on people earning under $400,000 a year, and we depress the economic growth, which allows people to have good jobs and rising wages. With regards to child care and the need for kids to have child care, broadly speaking, looking at the Democratic proposals with regards to child care, there seems to be a very significant bias toward providing child care and pre-K education and so forth, which encourage, if you will, women and men going into the workforce, as opposed to saying, hey, if one of you wants to stay and raise the child, that's acceptable too. It does seem like the administration strongly prefers getting kids out of the home and getting both parents into the workforce. And I understand there's an economic reality to that or advantage to that. And yet I also think there's a developmental advantage to a child if parents want to have one or both remain home to raise a child, that there's a child-rearing advantage to that as well. Are you concerned, and I guess I'm going to direct this to the member of this panel that's responsible for child care, are you concerned that too much focus on federal mandates actually may be detrimental to the effects on children who might otherwise be raised with the intensive involvement and investment on the part of the parent or one of the parents for that child?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Yeah, I think two things here. For one thing, children develop better in an environment where they can engage with others besides their family members, and allowing a child to be in a setting where they can develop the cognitive and the social emotional skills will allow the parents to go to work and not have to worry about their child falling behind by the time they're ready for kindergarten.
Let me just interrupt. Your first point was that, make sure I understand, you believe it's better for a child to not be in the home in their neighborhood with parents, with their parent. Let's say a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old child. They're better being in a professional child care center approved by the government than being in their home and in their neighborhood.
But it's more beneficial for the child because children learn better in a setting outside, well, with families first. Always the family is the child's first teacher.
I didn't realize I was at a disadvantage because I was raised by my mom who stayed home. I guess what you describe is a perspective on the part of the administration, which I find contrary to personal experience and contrary to the perspective of many parents. I would think that as we think about the policies that we want to have with regards to child rearing, that we would give authority to the parents to make that decision as opposed to an administration to make it for them.
Sir, yes, well, Senator, again, parents are the first teachers and a child's preference is to be with the family. But if the family cannot allow to do that, it's greatly beneficial for a child to be in a setting where they can get that support to develop their social, emotional, and cognitive skills. We have seen studies have shown that children outside of the family who are in group care setting do much better socially, emotionally, and cognitively.
Thank you.
So I know we don't want to defer for the nation to take care of a parent's responsibility, but it's a partnership and it helps foster that child's development better than just being